So, it's a totally different question to say who won this battle overall because it lasts so long. Here's all we're going to ask today. And if you look at the calendar, it tells you exactly what you should be able to do. An evidence-based conclusion, like, I know because of this, who won the first day of this battle? The Germans or the British? Now, the French are involved here, but it's mostly the British going on offense. Spoiler alert, because your gut should already tell you who you think's going to win, because the defense in 1916 always has the advantage. Okay? While the British have their new secret weapon, the tank, they don't have very many. They're slow. They break down all the time, and they don't really know how to use them, because it might sound cool to say we have this super secret tank thing we've been working on. It's basically a tractor with armor is all the tank is. You don't know how to use it effectively until you go try it out, right? So it's an experiment at the Somme. Now, the Germans are sitting on the other side of no man's land behind a heck of a lot of barbed wire, machine guns, artillery. And in the first day of this battle, because that's all we're concerned with today, is the first day, July 1st, 1916. The British are going to take 58,000 casualties. And I think that's a conservative guess. 58,000 casualties on day one of one battle. Dang. Now to put that in perspective, because numbers just bounce off our heads. We get bombarded with them. Okay, we're doing the Cold War right now in U.S. history. We fought in the Korean War for 3 years. The United States did. And we fought a lot of angry Chinese and North Korean dudes for 3 years. We only lost about 58,000 casualties in 3 years of the Korean War. The British lost that many on one day of one battle. If you look at how many Americans died in the Vietnam War, that was a war that, depending on how you count, lasted about 7 or 8 years for us. We lost 56, 58,000 dead American service personnel in the Vietnam War. The British lost that many in one day at this battle. Does that put that in perspective? Yeah. What's so funny about that? How is that funny? Because guess who's doing the dying? British men, not much older than some of you. Okay? So, that should impress upon you, like, this is a really deadly battle. Because in the first day, they lose 58,000 men, dead and wounded. And it's going to take 1.5 million more casualties for this battle to be over. That's insane. Okay, so here's what we're going to look at. 3 sources. A British newspaper, okay, that had an article 2 days after the battle started saying, here's who's winning on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. You can probably guess what a British newspaper is going to say. Then, a British soldier named George Coppard, who was a machine gunner in the actual Battle of the Somme. He was down in the trenches when this happened. He's going to tell us what he saw through his binoculars. And then, it wouldn't be fair if we didn't have a German soldier who was also a machine gunner, which is important because most of those 58,000 dead and wounded British guys, guess how they got dead or wounded? German machine guns. So, we're going to read what a German machine gunner has to say. While we do that, there's a little graphic organizer at the bottom. We're going to ask the same 5 questions of each source. Here's how we're going to approach this. We'll do document A together. I'll hold your hand, so to speak. Okay? Figuratively, not literally, Isaiah or Delgado. Okay? And then I'm going to give you a partner. One of you does the British machine gunner. One of you does the German. And we see if we can corroborate what they're saying and match up their stories. Or, if they don't match up, find where the truth might be and answer the simple question, who won the first day of the Battle of the Somme? Okay? So, let's start with source A. Here's what we're looking for. Who wrote this? When did they write it? When you guys take the Aspire or whatever your sophomore test is called, no, that's the prep for that test, you will do a reading section, just like the ACT has, where you get short readings, about half a page to a page long, and a series of questions about them. Exactly like this. I'm not a huge expert on test prep, okay? And I take that as a compliment to my character. Because I think being good at test prep is like being good at pool. Okay, shooting pool. If you're really awesome at shooting pool, you're probably not good at real life, in my opinion, because you spent most of your time shooting pool. Same thing with test prep. It's not the be-all, end-all, but here's my one tip. People get in a hurry and they skip this top part that says what's going on here and just jump in the reading. 2 big reasons not to fall into that trap. Number 1, if you don't read this context, who wrote this, what it's about, why they wrote it, this won't make sense. Second reason, there's almost always a question that you can answer from this part. It's usually the first question. Do you ever see questions on those tests that say something like this? What was the author's purpose? What was the main topic of this article? Well, guess what? You don't have to read the entire article to know the answer to that. You read the context, and it'll tell you. Okay, so let's read that first. Do you need me? I was hoping you were going to hit him upside the head with it. You're nicer than I am. The Daily Express is an English newspaper founded in 1900. Like other English newspapers, it printed daily news and stories on the war. Okay, nothing earth-shattering. Here's an excerpt written by correspondent John D. Irvine describing the first day of the Battle of the Somme, which appeared in the paper on July 3rd, 1916. Okay, so do we know who wrote this and when? Pop down to our handy-dandy chart. John Irvine wrote it somewhere between July 1st and July 3rd. We do not know what type of source he is yet, but we will shortly. So John Irvine wrote this between July 1st and 3rd, 1916. Now, the next 2 things we're looking for, what type of source is he? We only have 2 options from day 1 of history class. What are the 2 types of sources we categorize? Primary, secondary. Did he experience this battle himself, or did he read about it, talk to someone who was there, etc.? If he was there and saw it with his own 2 eyes, he's primary. We don't know yet. If he's getting secondhand information, like Zane was in there fighting, and then I come say, what was it like? He's primary, but I'm secondary source. So what is he, and then what is the tone of his article? And you got to give an example that backs up why you pick that tone. So let's read on. Here's his first paragraph. The great day of battle broke in sunshine and mist. Not a cloud obscured the sky as the sun appeared above the horizon in the direction where the German trenches lay. ... Okay? Think of the tone there. And you don't have to use words that only an English teacher would allow, because I'm going to make up my own tone. Does he set the tone for this article right there in the first line? What's he really talking about here? The weather, the setting. He's painting a picture. He's not even talking about the battle. He's talking about the sun and the mist. Yes, Mr. Nelson?
There's 4 dots there, not 3.
There should be 3 if it's a proper ellipsis according to your English teacher, right? Aren't ellipses 3?
I don't know. I've never.
I know from that one day I was in English class with you, 7th period. It's where you cut something out and you put a ... instead.
Yeah, so.
Please forgive my extra period. Now, here's the important question. What's his tone? Happy?
Mysterious. Patriotic.
Patriotic? Okay, let me tell you mine. You cannot steal mine, because mine's pretty dang awesome. If you have a grandpa like I do, I need this chair. Okay, this is not a term that your English teachers would approve of, so don't share it with them. They'd say, you're just making stuff up. If you can't tell, I like to make up my own answers. Here's what this sounds like. I'm your grandpappy. I want you to sit on my lap, and I'm going to tell you a story, son. Back on July 1st, 1916, sun's coming up. No clouds in the sky. You look to the east. You see the dawn rising. That's where the Germans are waiting for us. That sounds like story time with Grandpa. Now, what an English teacher would say to that, I already know, and I don't care. Doesn't that sound like a tone that you could connect to? Like, do you know what I mean when I say story time with Grandpa? Do you have a grandpa or a dad or an uncle who's like that? They're really dramatic and they're like, oh, let me tell you about what this was like.
Oh, my dad's me.
That sounds like my grandpa that I named my son after. Okay? Now, that's not a real tone. I don't care. You know what I mean. Dramatic. It sounds like the opening scene of a play or a movie that something awesome is going to happen. Think about that. You're in the British trenches. You're facing east. That's where the sun rises. The attack comes at dawn. Isn't that sweet how he says you're looking to the east, here comes the sun? That's where the Germans are waiting for us. So you pick a tone. I don't care what you call it. Just don't call it story time with Grandpa because that's mine. What does that sound like? And then steal a little snippet of something that he said that fits that tone. It sounds like a movie trailer, like the first 2 lines of a movie trailer. The classic one being Star Wars. In a galaxy far, far away. Like you just know something awesome is going to happen next. In the box. What is the author's tone? You take something he said, even as small as a word or two, that shows why you think it's that tone. Mine is story time with Grandpa.
Grandpa's story time. Why?
You can't use that one.
How about
Good.
Grandpa-ish?
Noel, if you're not going to use your class time, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. Okay, what's your tone? That's not a tone. Have you ever talked to someone and left a conversation and said, man, you're really in an introduction mood today? No. Have you ever talked to somebody and you got done, you're like, you're in a dramatic mood today?
Yeah, sister.
I'm not going to say anything to that. I'll tell you this. You keep up and on task today. We're going to get this done and you don't have to worry about it. If you don't, it's going to haunt your dreams and I will not feel sorry for you. Okay? So we have a tone. We have a snippet that we took from that first line. Okay? I think another good one is dramatic, anxious. Like, don't you want to hear the rest of the story after that intro? Like, something awesome's going to happen. I like patriotic. That's a very good one too. So, here's what this reporter says. I witnessed the last phase of the bombardment, which preceded the advance. Here, no, don't jump the gun. How far away are the artillery that the British are probably shooting before the battle starts? Miles behind the front lines. Is he really going to be a primary source if he sees the last few shots from British cannons? Is he going to be in the thick of stuff? He'll tell us. Don't jump the gun. We don't know yet if he's primary. It was 6 o'clock summertime when we arrived there. The guns had been roaring furiously all through the night. Now they had, so to speak, gathered themselves together for one grand final effort before our British lions should be let loose on their prey. Doesn't that sound like story time with Grandpa? Doesn't that sound dramatic, like something in an epic movie? It does not sound like introduction, because that is not a tone. Do you have a new tone? What? British lions being let loose on their prey, and we're British. Does that sound sad?
No.
Are you in PETA? Do you have a problem with lions eating antelope or something? I don't, especially when they're German.
What's PETA?
People for the ethical treatment of animals. Anti-hunting people. Like I said, if you're on task, you're going to get done. If you're not, it's going to haunt your dreams, and I won't feel sorry for you. Okay? Does that line back up the tone you picked? If you said dramatic, let's say, British lions being let loose on their prey, does that sound dramatic? Very much so. This guy, can we agree, maybe like your sister, your words not mine, is he a drama queen? Is he making everything sound over the top? Okay, here's another good one for you. Grandiose. Like everything's a big deal. I had Eggos with peanut butter and ice cream for breakfast. It was a big deal. I tweeted about it. That's grandiose. Okay? So, he continues, a perceptible slackening of our fire soon after 7 was the first indication given to us that our gallant soldiers, there he goes, being a drama queen, were about to leap from their trenches and advance against the enemy. Non-combatants, of course, were not permitted to witness the spectacle. But I am informed that the vigor and eagerness of the first assault were worthy of the best traditions of the British Army. Now you have your answer. Scroll down. Is he in the thick of things watching this? He's hearing from people who were, therefore he is a secondary source. Put that in the end of the first box. He's a secondary source. You should have a tone and at least one example that backs up why you said. The tone is no. He heard about them from people who heard about them from people who heard about them from people who were there. So he did not witness the events he describes. He just heard stories. Okay? And then that leaves us with 2 questions. He is secondary, which tells us in the next box, Isaac, he did not witness those events because he's secondary. He didn't live it and experience it himself. Questions on the first 3 boxes there, because we now know everything we need for those first 3, which leaves us 2. So, Irvine wrote it, July 1st through the 3rd. He's a secondary source. His tone is whatever you picked. Give one example to back up why. He did not witness the events he describes. So now, we really only have one question to answer from his reading. Who does he say wins? You can probably already guess who he's going to say wins. And then, do you trust this guy? Does anyone have a question on those first 3 boxes that we filled out? You're going to do one of these on your own when we're done. So if you can't do this, you're going to have a bad time. So, he continues. I have myself heard within the past few days men declare that they were getting fed up with life in the trenches. That's what you read about Friday. And would welcome a fight at close quarters. Now, if you say you trust or don't trust this guy, do you think you have to have a reason? Let me throw one out there. You've read and witnessed and experienced both trench warfare, when we went out, did the no man's land stuff, and the battle from Thursday. And you read about life in the trenches Friday. The rats, the smell, the lice, the death, the boredom. Which would you rather do? Sit in the trenches or go out into no man's land against German machine guns? Who votes sit in the trenches? Raise your hand. You'd rather go into no man's land. You're dead. We all know how this story ends. You're dead.
No, I'm not. No, because he's German.
Oh, I'm sorry. You play Call of Duty and you know what you're doing. Yes. That's not how these things work, Andrzejska. The British don't lose 58,000 guys the first day because they had a bad day. They were doomed to lose. They got slaughtered. Wait till we read what the German machine gunner says. Yeah. Famous last words. I thought. Okay? Here's what tells me this guy is not a good source. Do you really think that British soldiers would say, I'm so bored and so fed up with sitting in the trenches, let me at the Germans. Let me charge across no man's land in broad daylight against German machine guns behind giant spools of barbed wire. Do you really think British soldiers want to go fight rather than sit in the trench? If they have common sense, like we do because we've read about this stuff, that smells like BS to me. I don't believe that. Because the trenches would suck. You hate rats and lice. I do, okay? But I take that over a German machine gun any day.
You can eat the rats.
You're going to get a disease. They're going to be crawling up your pant leg while you're sleeping at night. And as bad as that sounds, it's better than fighting. Okay? Man, we got Call of Duty hero over here who would win the Battle of the Somme by himself. And we got Chef of the Year who's going to make black rats taste like prime rib. So, yeah, your plasma grenades are going to come in handy in 1916. So here's the last thing he says. We had not to wait long for news, and it was wholly satisfactory and encouraging. The message received at 10 o'clock ran something like this, quote, Isaac, listen. On a front of 20 miles north and south of the Somme, we and our French allies have advanced and taken the German first line of trenches. We are attacking vigorously. Fricourt, La Bossée, and Mametz. German prisoners are surrendering freely, and a good many already fallen into our hands. Scroll down to the chart. Scroll down to the chart. Who does he say won the first day and how? Clearly the British are winning. Put that in your chart. He gave two examples of why he says the British are winning. One is the Germans are surrendering. What else did he say? We captured the German trenches. By we, I mean the British. So he says by taking German prisoners and capturing their front trenches, the British are clearly winning. Andrew Jaska, you need to reevaluate your life priorities right now. No, because I can see in the reflection of Snively's glasses what he's doing on his screen. I don't even need land school. Yeah, I'm sneaky. I'm sneaky. What now? I can see your screen in the reflection of the fridge. That's why I like you sitting there. I'm dead serious. You guys still like Slug Alley now?
I do.
It's going to get blown up.
What am I doing? What am I doing?
Okay, here's what you need to decide. Do you trust this source? If you say yes, you need to say yes because. If you say no, you need to say no because and have a reason. Like, do you trust this guy? What he's telling you, British are winning, they're kicking butt, they're lions eating their prey. No, it's not opinion as long as you have reasons. Do you trust him as a source? Yes or no? Okay, here's the first thing. Did he see this stuff happen? No. There's one good reason. He's writing this in a newspaper for British civilians back home. I think he's telling them what they want to hear.
Is this for the last box? Yeah.
Yes. Do you trust this guy?
No.
Why not? So, you put down exactly what you're saying out loud. No, because, and have one good reason. You are on point, and I like that about you, Delgado. I'm going to have these guys just be partners so it doesn't mess up our system. So you guys are 9, so you get numbers too.
Was it a queen in 1916 or a king?
I think a king, but I would have to Google it to know for sure. Okay, numbers coming. Ready? 1, 2. Emma, you're a 3. 4. Nara, you're going to be a 5. 6, 7, 8.
That'll be 7.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? John and Mara, you guys are 9s. Here's what's going to go down next. I'm going to explain. You're going to find who your partner is. You are going to move to a spot that neither of you are sitting at. So let's just say, for example, what number are you? Who's the 3 over here? Isaac's the 3. You and Emma are going to sit anywhere in the room except where Isaac is and except where you are with your laptops. What you're going to do when you get a spot staked out, figure out whose birthday comes earlier in the calendar year. When's your birthday? May 16th. Isaac, when's your birthday?
October 29th.
She's earlier. You get to do source B, the British machine gunner. That gets you, source C, the German machine gunner. You just do the one That's dictated by your birthday. So whoever comes earlier in the calendar year gets B, British. Whoever comes later gets C, German. You're going to read and analyze that source on your own, just like we did. Put your heads together with your partner and say, does my source corroborate yours? Does it match up?
No.
Then we answer the big picture question at the bottom and explain who you think won the first day of the Battle of the Somme and how you know. Question.
After we do our section, do we get the section that we don't have from our partner?
Yes. And you will sit down and say, here's what mine said. What did yours say? Here's what my gut tells me we're going to find. A British guy going, yeah, we kicked butt. And a German guy saying, yeah, we kicked butt, and we can't trust either one. Does anyone else have that feeling? That's what we're going to see?
I don't.
You must have read ahead. Find your partner, figure out who's which spot, and let's rock and roll.